If there's one thing the world needs right now, it's another podcast. And if the sound of your own voice is something you're a fan of, then this video is for you. Here is how to start a podcast in 4 steps. Step 1, be really into podcasts. You can't start a podcast unless you're already a podcast evangelist. But how do you know if you're a big enough podcast fan to actually start one? You'll find yourself saying the following 3 things. 1, that reminds me of this thing I heard the other day, followed by poorly regurgitated facts. 2, you haven't heard blank? Start with episode 409. It'll change your life. And 3, I should start my own podcast. It's important not to get feedback on this third phrase. Instead, move ahead to step 2, prepare your stage. Go to eBay and type in podcast kit and buy the first one you see. Now, take to social media and say, just bought this podcast kit, and then write hashtag big things are coming. You're about to be the next Ira Glass, Joe Rogan, and Tim Ferriss put together. Buckle up, world. To name your podcast, you have 2 options. 1, put your name in between the words the and podcast, or 2, make a pun. To make a pun, take a simple word related to your topic. Let's say you want to talk about interior design. Your simple word might be home. Go to rhymezone.com and type in home. Then click on any of the rhyming words. I'm going to click Rome. Up the top, click phrases. Check them out. Got Rome wasn't built in a day. Then switch the words. And now my interior design podcast is called Home Wasn't Built in a Day. Groundbreaking stuff. Now that your ducks are in a row, let's get those ducks some cash. Step 3, a word from your sponsors. Before you even start podcasting, it's important that you strike a deal with one of the following companies: Squarespace, Wix, Audible, Blue Apron, Stamps.com, 99 Designs, Onnit, or one of 12 different mattress companies. If your show is fun and conversational, make sure you say a lot as you say your ads. So I use 99 Designs for pretty much everything, and use the code STRUTH to get $10 off your first order. Yeah. And if your show is scripted, use a higher voice and add in some corporate stock music. Today's episode of the Struthless Show is brought to you by oil. But a sponsorship isn't your thing. Just tell your listeners the following. And as always, guys, if you like what you hear, you can subscribe to our Patreon page. Obviously, we do the podcast for free, so a couple of bucks a month really helps us keep the lights on. Cool. Thanks, guys. Just a bit of housekeeping there. And finally, step 4, pick your genre. Most podcasting apps will show about 10 different genres, but this is incredibly misleading. In reality, there are only 3 genres of podcasts. 1, a dramatic reading of a Wikipedia page. 2, a person with a podcast who interviews other people who also have a podcast. And 3, unstructured banter. To break down each genre, we'll start with 1, a dramatic reading of a Wikipedia page. Typically, these podcasts will examine a historical event, an unresolved crime, or some trivia. To turn them into a listenable story, just add music. I'm going to go to the page for a list of unsolved deaths, and I'll just scroll down and click a random one. Joseph Bone Elwell, yep, don't know him, cool. Now I'm just going to add some eerie music and read it out. Joseph Bone Elwell was an American bridge player, tutor, and writer during the 1900s. However, he is best known as the victim of an unsolved murder. The second genre, a person with a podcast who interviews other people who also have a podcast. There really is not much to this genre. Just stick to a few basic rules and you'll blend right in. Start the show with 5 minutes of what you've been up to. Aim for about 2 hours. Make sure your guest is promoting something. Only talk about 7 topics: mental health, business success, nutrition and fitness, gender, left versus right politics, psychedelics and medicine, and book recommendations. If you have a pet, it's advisable that they interrupt your takes. And if your guest doesn't have a podcast, make sure at some point in your podcast you recommend that your guest gets a podcast. Altogether, it should look like this. So run me through your morning routine. Well, I wake up at 4 a.m, drink a soy-based protein shake, microdose on LSD, and spend 45 minutes journaling on identity politics. I really don't say this to many guests, but you should really have your own podcast. Is that your dog? And the third genre of podcast is unstructured banter. Let's say you're at the pub with your mates and the banter is fire. You think to yourself, if only the world could hear this. Well, now they can. Simply stick a microphone in the mix and immortalize your in-jokes. And I don't know, maybe pick a movie to talk about, I guess. Alrighty, fellas, I got one. Wait, conspiracy alert, right? Ferris Bueller's Day Off was just an ad to sell white leather jackets. Eh? Dude, his leather jacket was obviously red. Nah, it was white. Pull that shit up, Jamie. Yeah, his jacket's like a cream and black color, so yeah, you're both wrong. Continue this for 4 hours. Then upload your masterpiece and post the most interesting parts to social media over pictures of waveforms. This will trick people into thinking that the entire podcast is also interesting. And that is all it takes, literally just that. Congratulations, like so many before you, you have now started a podcast. And it was almost as easy as putting together a Squarespace website. With their stunning range of templates and award-winning designs, Squarespace will help you stand out in a crowd, unlike podcasts.